first on today's cover story is tipping at a tipping point. Today's Erica Hill has more on that story. Erica, good morning to you.
Hi, Savannah. Good morning. If you don't include the tips, the hourly wage for most waiters is either at or even below the federal minimum wage. Now, some high-profile restaurants have decided to pay their wait staff full-time salaries, in some cases even benefits, telling their customers to skip the tip.
Let's go. $2, that's all you're going to leave? That's 15%.
That's 13%. These people depend on tips for a living.
Some people just aren't big tippers.
You don't ever tip, huh?
I don't tip because society says I have to.
Others don't tip at all.
It's an 18% tip included.
Yeah.
And then they have a space for an additional tip.
And plenty more struggle with the appropriate amount. 15, 20% more? At some high-end restaurants, you no longer have to break out the calculator. Places like New York's Sushi Yasuda, where it's clear, gratuities not accepted. The no-tip policy is also standard at Chez Panisse in Berkeley and Napa Valley's famed French Laundry. Instead, gratuities are figured into the menu prices, which can support full-time salaries for the waitstaff. It's the way many European restaurants have done it for years.
Do you guys want your bell?
That's why these British tourists were surprised to learn about the tipping custom at American restaurants like the 101 Coffee Shop in Hollywood.
It was a bit shocking, yes, because we don't really generally tip at all.
For Carrie Bowman, tips aren't just an extra bonus, they're her livelihood.
People don't realize that we make minimum wage.
One workers' advocate group is pushing for all restaurants to pay higher wages to their waitstaff.
People who put food on our tables cannot afford to eat themselves.
The National Restaurant Association says each restaurant has to decide what's best for its business, and tipping is part of what makes food service such an attractive industry. And it turns out not every customer is ready to stop tipping.
We left 25, almost 30%, because she was great.
Now, as far as the service you get from a waiter on a salary versus a waiter working for a tip, a recent study by Cornell University shows tipping isn't as much of an incentive for good service as most would believe. Savannah?
All right, Erica Hill, thank you so much. Donatella Arpaia is the owner of 3 restaurants, including Donatella here in New York City. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
We did a poll on this. I want to know if this will surprise you. When we asked our viewers, should American restaurants abolish tipping, 58% said yes, 42% said no. Did that surprise you?
It did a little bit. It did. I expected it to be in reverse.
Well, some people think if you don't have the incentive of a tip, watch out, the service is just going to completely drop off.
Yeah.
You agree?
I think that this question has many faces, and it depends what part of the city and what type of restaurant. But overall, yes, I do agree. I do think that this is a culture where we are known for our service and we are incentivized by this form of service. And I don't know, but I grew up spending my summers in Europe where it's based on this type of policy that they're working on. The service is not as good as in America.
Some people would love the idea of having to put the calculator away or the little tip card because they don't want to do the math, but it should be remembered that servers are quite often making far less than minimum wage. Tips is where they get their money. Would they want to see tipping go away?
I did an unofficial poll last night in my restaurant, and the overall reaction is no, they wouldn't want to see tips going away because a lot of them are in it for the hunt, and I think that it is definitely a part of our culture, and they would not want it. But that being said, higher end restaurants, and there is a movement, and it's justified in higher end restaurants where they're more professionals and they want stability in this very unstable economy.
Let's go out to Al. He's out on the plaza with some of our fans. Al, what do people say about this idea with you?
Well, we've got Chris from New York, Patty from Detroit. Chris, let's start with you. What's your opinion is?
I think absolutely we should get rid of tipping, pay waiters and waitresses a living wage. They get more, they're happier, better service, and I don't have to do the math. So I think everyone wins.
Patty, but you disagree with it.
I disagree with that because I think we're motivated by money, and the more money they can make, the better service they'll give us.
All right, and Patty brought props too. So, props to you. Props to you, Patty. All right. So there you go. Two opinions, Savannah.
Al, I'm surprised you didn't try to take that as a tip for your good service there. I mean, do you think that restaurants would want to go in this direction? And wouldn't this be also another way for them to raise prices? And how would you really know what was going to tips and what wasn't just a premium on the food?
Yes, I think it's very complicated because, like I said, this is so ingrained in our culture. Just like when Europeans come here, they don't tip because it's ingrained in their culture not to tip. So that's why my servers come to me and say, there are Europeans here, can we add a tip? And I have to tell them, no, we can't. It's a very complicated issue. There's no easy answers, but I still think that it's a trend and it's going to work in certain places, but I don't think it's going to happen here anytime soon overall.
It's a good debate to have, say, over dinner.
Over dinner at Donatella.
Thank you so much. Good to have you here.